Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's an honor to share with you, 1 hour and a half, 1 hour and 15 minutes, I think, and to share with you our experience, because all of us, we spend lots of time in the Arctic, lots of time sleeping on the ice, on iceberg, on ice floe, on snow. And so we will try to share with you our experience. Each of us will have 4 minutes to introduce ourselves. And after that, I think that we will give some testimony. And maybe if you have some questions, we can answer your questions and share with you. Okay. Yeah, that's me. I should start with me. It's not very nice, but I will start with me. Okay, so I'm Nicolas Dubreuil. So I'm sorry. I'm doing expedition since polar expedition since now 25 or 30 years. I don't remember exactly. And I have done lots of sea, kayak and ski and dog sledge expeditions. And now I'm living part of the year in Glacial, a very small settlements close to the settlements of my dear friend Uli Olsvig. And you see these pictures are taken from Glacial. And we are doing expeditions, tailor-made expeditions, but the thing is that we try to do expeditions in collaboration with the local communities. So that means that we don't use our Western techniques, let's say, but we use only the traditional techniques, sledges, kayaks, and so on. And we build our expedition regarding what the local communities wants to do, what they want to show, what they want to share. And with that, we have always a scientific purpose. So that means we try to help the science to go with the local communities. For example, I was in Glacial some months ago, trying to talk with them if it's possible to have the skeleton of a narwhal to bring here in the museum in this French museum. And also what we want is that our customers, of course, how can I say that? We want that they suffer a little bit. It's very important for us that they feel where they are, that they are not traveling like, a package, but they have to experience the cold, that they have to experience difficulties, and so on. So we try to do that, and especially, of course, with the Greenlandic communities. So now I let the microphone to Christian, Christian. Okay, there is an order, sorry. I'm sorry for that. For the presentation, okay. So now we let the microphone to Liv. Liv, I hope that you can hear me.
Can you hear me?
Liv, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Liv. So I let you introduce yourself. Please, you have the floor for, let's say, 4 minutes.
Okay. Well, I live in the outskirts of Oslo, and as a Norwegian, I got my first skis when I was 3 years old, and loved skiing ever since. I started in the Arctic as a guide on Svalbard, the Norwegian Arctic, in 1985, and I've seen the changes there. And I fulfilled my childhood dream I'm a former high school teacher. And I fulfilled my childhood dream to ski to the South Pole in 1994. I skied solo and unsupported. And after that, I started lecturing and also took a master in management. So I've sort of lived with using the metaphors that everything that happens in an expedition happens in all organizations. And in 2000, I teamed up with American woman Anne Bancroft, and we crossed the Antarctic continent. And also because she's a former teacher, and we made a curriculum called Dare to Dream to help young people and kids to find their own dream. And we also made an interdisciplinary curriculum about Antarctica. And Anne and I, we still work together. We had 2 attempts to go to the North Pole. And right now we are focusing on combining adventure and education, and our focus is now access to fresh water. So we have brought 1 woman from each continent on our team. We did the Ganges some years ago, and next year we will do the Wanganui River on New Zealand because we have a Maori on our team. But what what's my main when we're talking about the polar regions, I have really been more guiding about more than 30 years on Svalbard. So I've seen the big changes there. I think that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Liv. And so now, if I respect the order, we have Eric in Australia. Eric, can you hear us?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So you have also 4 minutes to introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I'm going to read from a script because otherwise I would go way too long. So from my early childhood, I was inquisitive about being in faraway places, and this ultimately led me to studying the outdoors. And in 1982, I became one of the first Australians to graduate with a degree in outdoor education. In 1992, my 5th year as Director of Outdoor Education at Geelong Grammar School in Australia, I organised my first polar ski expedition to Ellesmere Island, way up in the Canadian high Arctic. I'd already become a reasonable skier and trained on glaciers in New Zealand, and together with 2 friends, we crossed Ellesmere's northern ice cap and climbed Barbo Peak, the island's highest mountain. And I was totally hooked on this adventuring stuff, and I left my teaching to follow a career as a professional explorer. In 1995, I helped to kickstart the use of traction kites on polar expeditions, making a snow kite crossing of Greenland. And I remember in a single day, we covered 80 kilometers. Now, the record in a 24-hour period stands at over 600 kilometers and over 5,000 kilometers in a single expedition. My dream of reaching Antarctica finally came true in 1996 when I worked for 6 months for the Australian Antarctic Division as a field training officer at Mawson Station. And this coastal base sat on the edge of the vast Antarctic ice sheet, and almost daily I would look south, dreaming of getting closer to the pole, closer to true exploration and further away from humans. For years, I'd been inspired by the North and South Pole expeditions of Robert Swan, and I became fixated on completing the first unsupported ski expedition to the South Pole and back. In 1998, together with John Muir and Peter Hillary, we landed at McMurdo Station and set off across the colossal Ross Ice Shelf, up the never-traversed Shackleton Glacier, and traversed the high plateau to the South Pole, over 1,400 kilometers in 84 days. You know, we never managed to make the return journey, still now holding the record for the slowest ever ski expedition to the South Pole. But our passage up the Shackleton Glacier was for me a revelation that exploring, not just adventuring, must remain a driving force in my life. Then in the year 2000, with 2 friends, I completed a snow kite crossing of the South Patagonian ice cap and then prepared for the big one. And the big one really for me is the North Pole. In late winter 2002, together with John Muir, I flew to Cape Archishevsky on the Russian archipelago of Severnaya Zemlya and stood for the first time on the frozen Arctic Ocean. Only on that expedition did I learn how awful, how truly awful this place was. Intense cold, thin ice, polar bears, drifting pack ice, extreme isolation, exhaustion. We had all of those, and only then did I learn how much I loved awful. We skied almost 1,000 kilometers in 58 days, reaching the North Pole on April 30, my 40th birthday. I needed more of this, and in 2004, I began my company, Ice Trek Expeditions, guiding my first last degree ski expedition to the North Pole, and for the next 15 years until COVID hit. I'd rediscovered my roots in outdoor education and quickly became interested in the polar guiding industry, founding the International Polar Guides Association in 2012. IPGA is now the leading authority on professional guiding in polar ice environments, having endorsed almost 40 guides in this highly specialized field. Guiding has taken me to both poles over 30 times, including an expedition from North Pole to Canada, 3 new unsupported ski routes to the South Pole via the Reedy Glacier in 2016, in 2017 up the Kansas Glacier, both of those from the Ross Ice Shelf, and last summer at the age of 60 from the Filchner Ice Shelf up the Support Force Glacier to the South Pole. Every spring, together with my daughter Marty, I'm guiding ski expeditions on the Svalbard archipelago. She co-guided her first Greenland crossing last year, and in December we fly to Cape Town to co-guide a fly into the South Pole. Marty is fast approaching her IPGA endorsement. And finally, in 2020, on the back of some falsely promoted South Pole expeditions, I co-created the Polar Expeditions Classification Scheme, a much-needed system that harmonizes the language of polar adventure and exploration. And using standardized keywords and definitions, PEX provides adventurers, the media, and the public guidance on how to accurately and equitably compare, promote, and immortalize polar journeys, the type of journeys that I've dedicated my life to.
Thank you so much, Eric. Now, I think the order will be Christian Maria, maybe.
Will be much shorter. I'm not an explorer like everybody around the table or online. I'm a publisher, publishing books about mountain and about poles. I know the poles since a long time, 40 years more or less, starting with a small expedition in Antarctica just to climb mountains around, and when you've been there one time, you generally follow up. And I'm more dedicated in logistics, so I was also, I worked 10 years with Jean-Louis Etienne on his ship that he sold later on to Peter Blake, that used the ship only for 3 years before to be killed in the Amazonia on board of the ship. And later on it was bought by a French guy to make a science. It's named Tara right now, so I'm still working with Tara. And I developed logistics in Antarctica and in Arctica. I was small support for Liv and for Eric with a drifting base that we install every year at the North Pole with Russian logistics. I managed that base for maybe 12 years before being kicked off by a mafia guys from Russia. And later on, this guy died 4 years ago, and I'm working with Frederick Paulsen. Maybe you've heard of this. Quite dedicated to polar region, and he bought again this company. So now the big problem is all the connections with Russia are closed. So it's suspended for since 2-3 years. But we also develop logistics in Antarctica from Punta Arenas or from Cape Town inside the continent. To provide some logistics to science and to tourists also. So here it's a little background.
Little background. Thank you, Christian. Christian is very shy, but he is our polar memory. He knows everything about everyone.
Yeah, With the age,
specialist.
it's dropping a little. Huh?
Thank you so much,
It's
Christian.
it's good to see you, Christian. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
pleasure to see you also, Olive.
And so now we are climbing a little bit, and so the famous Dode will introduce himself.
Yeah, I don't know if we can. I think there is a film, but anyway, if it's not. So I'm Lionel Daudet. I'm a French professional mountaineer, and I'm used to climb a lot in remote places on Earth, you know, such as Antarctica, South Georgia, Kerguelen Island, Greenland many times, or Alaska, Andes, Himalaya. And right now, I don't want to speak about all this Hassan because I think it will last more than 5 minutes. So I think we are a little bit short of time. So I'd rather speak about the relationship between mountaineer and glacier and ice and mountains. So first of all, when I see a glacier, even if I saw many glaciers in my life, it's always a wow. You know, you just say it's wonderful, it's crazy, and it makes me really deeply happy. And after, you have a kind of physical relationship between you and the glacier, because usually you can have a glacier overhang on mountains, and you climb the glacier. And it's even if you use ice axes, crampons, you are not dominating the glacier. You are not dominating the mountains. You have a feeling of humility with the mountains, you know, and you are like a mice trying to find the best way to reach the top. And moreover, the most important part for me is the mental part, because it's not, when you climb a mountain like this with lots of glacier in remote places, it's just as if the whiteness of the glacier, the transparency of the glacier was coming inside you and making a change inside you. And this change, what can we put which word could we put on it? For me, there was one word. The word is serenity, harmony. So at the end, for me, you have a friendly relationship with the glacier, with the mountains. It means that it belongs to a kind of family, you know. And moreover, you have the feeling that the beats of the glacier are the same beats that you feel in your heart. It's very important for me to have this feeling with mountains. And you can see that glaciers are like humans. They are changing a lot. And we know that right now they are changing and they are suffering a lot. That's why I brought a piece of ice, which is coming from a glacier of the Southern Alps, just near the place I live. This is a glacier which name is Glacial de la Girose. And now I know I'm very committed with glacier and with mountains, and I'm trying to respect them the most as I can and to protect them. And you have some big project, and for instance on Glacial de la Girose you have a big project of cable car, and finally this project is really against my feeling of glacier. So that's why I brought this piece of ice, because that's my deep feeling right now, that it's like a member of my family, I told you. And every time a glacier disappears, and this one will disappear very soon, even it's destroyed more by human, it's as if one member of my family was dying. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So now we are starting to our discussions, and maybe we can start with a question. How do you and each of you, because I don't know if you realize the amount of experience that you have in this area, on polar area. I mean, we are talking about 30, 40 years of experience, so it's not anymore, let's say, a meteorological experience, it's a climatological experience. So it's quite huge. And I personally have a question. You have seen the change. I mean, since your first expedition leave, since your first crossing, but now, what are the impact for kind of explorer like us? What are the impact of the change? What are the impact of the change, for example, for you, Christian, of Borneo? Borneo is quite tricky, for example. So can you share with us, in each part of your field, the change that you have seen from all this experience?
Yes, for Antarctica, we let Liv and Eric will cross all around Antarctica. They have a better experience than myself. For the North Pole, it's a difference of 3 degrees is difficult to feel. But when you walk on the ice pack, there is one thing which is obvious since the last 20 years, is that you know the ice is drifting on the north, and the surface has diminished in summer from 45%, but in thickness there is only 1/3 left. And so when the ice is drifting, sometimes you have 2 pieces of ice will join together, and they create what's called a pressure ridge. The ice pack in the Arctic is not flat at all. It's full of pressure ridge everywhere. And 20 years ago, pressure ridge of 10 meters was really common. That means you generally have a keel of 60 meters. Now, when you see a pressure ridge of 2-3 meters, it's nearly the maximum, because the ice is so small, and it's a problem to establish the base here, because we are just dropping a tractor on the ice and making a runway, and now the ice there is no more multi-year ice in Antarctica, except on the north pole of Greenland that you know well. So it's only the ice from the year, and because ice is such a good isolation, it doesn't grow more than 1.2, maximum 1.5 meters. So the pack ice in the Arctic is really, really changing. Of course, we can see by satellite that it's shrinking, but for an explorer, the most obvious thing is the size of the pressure ridge.
Yes, I can add something. You know, my first climbing expedition in Greenland was in 1996, and last summer I came back in the same place in Greenland, and you can see it's the same than for the Alps. You can see a huge difference between the glacier 20 or more than 20 years ago. And now, you know, it has melted a lot, and the glaciers change a lot. Yes, it's a sensible way of seeing the difference between and the global warming in Greenland. For me, it's really the size of the glacier and the way how does it look, and the temperature. It's raining much more than 20 or 30 years ago. You know, when I was climbing 20 years ago, usually it was snowing regularly while we were climbing on the wall. And last summer, it was much more rain than snow. So it's a sign of global warming.
Yeah, and Liv and Eric, maybe you can share also your experience of what happens from the field. I mean, what do you have from the field in Antarctica?
Well, if I could first start with the North Pole, given that we were discussing that, you know, in 2002, I skied from the edge of Russia to the North Pole. And, you know, I didn't know much about the Arctic Ocean. I was just told that if you start from Russia, it's a longer distance, but you kind of go with the drift a little bit. You know, the pack ice there, it drifts because of the gyre, the Nansen gyre, and it drifts toward the North Pole. If you leave from the Canadian side, it's a shorter distance, but you're kind of going against the drift. So it's a little bit like being on a treadmill. So in 2002, we thought we would get all of this northerly drift towards the pole, but we got as much southerly drift as we got northern. So it kind of canceled it out. And I suppose an analogy is that if you get a bathtub full of water, and if you throw 3 buckets of ice into that bathtub, and it's full and thick of ice, if you put a fan on that bathtub and blow that ice, it doesn't move very far because it's packed in so tightly. And that's how the Arctic Ocean used to be many, many years ago. Now, because of global warming, there's so much less pack ice, and we actually see that when we're on the Arctic Ocean. There is a lot more open water than there's ever been before. There is a lot more drifting, because if you now take 2 buckets of ice out of that water, there's so much more water that we can see floating around in that bathtub. So that's my experience there. And one other anecdote is that in 2014, I tried skiing from North Pole to Canada for the second time. I was successful in 2011 with the team. 2014, we tried again. There was so much open water in that season that we drifted 180 kilometers to the east in the space of 40 days. Now compare that to Richard Webber and Misha Malakov's expeditions in the early 1990s, 1992, their first attempt, and again in 1995. They put a depot of food on the Arctic Ocean that they would collect on the way back. That depot of food didn't move. They found that depot on the way back. Admittedly, they put a beacon on there so that they could find it. But interestingly, that depot of food almost didn't move at all. And they could collect that food that they dropped themselves and use that for the return journey back to Ellesmere Island.
Thank you. Liv, can you share with us something?
Yeah, I skied to the South Pole in '94 and also crossed the Antarctic continent in 2000, 2001. It's only a few years between it, but I think on my solo trip, the weather was cold and it was no snow or nothing. But when Anne and I and Bancroft and I did the crossing in 2000, 2001, the weather has changed. It was more, we got snowstorm. And when we reached the South Pole, the scientists there said it's the warmest summer they have ever measured. And they said, well, you can experience water when you go down the Shackleton Glacier. And that didn't really sink into us. But when we went down the Shackleton Glacier, there was no snow, and we could see there were ponds that had been ponds with water there. And so I have only been 2 times on the Antarctic plateau, but my main experience is from Greenland and Spitsbergen. I did the crossing of Greenland in 1992, and I did the crossing again as a mentor this year in May. And I'm not sure if you can see, I have 2 pictures from Greenland. It's taken at the same position in 1992 and 2023. I'm not sure if you could see it, but it's the same. And Julie and I in 92, we just skied 15 minutes up and reached the snow and ice. And this year we had there was a road into the glacier. And I think it was about 40 kilometers before we could see the ice cap. So that's quite dramatic. And the same in what I've seen in Svalbard since 1985 and to this day. Especially the permafrost is melting. Especially this year, it has been really dramatic. I think that's there has been melting as a record melting this year. It was also bad in 2016, I remember, but this year is worse. So there's big holes in the ground in the summer, and you could see. So that's what I've seen. That it's I I haven't any picture of it, but it's really sad to see what's happening.
Thank you, Liv.
I would like to yeah, I totally agree with Liv, and there is a, you know that maybe you've heard yesterday they spoke about ice memory. They are collecting ice before it melts for the future generation. You know, it's a memory of in the ice. You can find all the memory of the climate inside the small bubbles. And they are trying to collect that in the higher mountains in the world to put it for next generation that will find a new technology to analyze, probably without destroying the ice core. And this will be stored in Antarctica because you don't need to have a special fridge, electricity that can drop or something like that. And like Liv say, in Svalbard, they put a seed walls. That all the seeds from the world are collected. If something happened in any continent, that you can recover these seeds and grow it again, and they are inside the permafrost. And when they initiate that, they were sure that the permafrost is always the same -13 temperature. And now it's even a problem with the seeds. I think so. In the Volt seed in Spitsbergen, they are facing that the temperature, and this can affect all the what's inside this humanity with all the seeds that exist in the world.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, I recommend you to visit, if you go to Svalbard, to Longyearbyen, to visit the seed vault. It's quite impressive, and yes, they are in trouble now. Regarding myself, I'd love to share with you my experience in Greenland, because that's something also of course, don't hesitate to talk if you want, Uli, about this. We were talking with Uli Olsvig what the problem they are facing in Greenland. I mean, when you talk to people that the climate changing, I mean, it will be 2 degrees more, 3 degrees more, and you are in Kuchlersoak and it's -50 outside, you say, okay, it will be -48. What the problem? And it's cold enough. And but the thing is that everything changed. I mean, it's not only the temperature increasing; it's also, as you say, all of you, the sea ice melting and so on. And in Greenland, you cannot travel from one place to another. There is no road. Okay, to go from one place to another, you need to go by dog sledge, by snowmobiles. And they use the old trail, and now they are facing lots of trouble. For example, the settlements where Uli is coming from is Nayat, is a very small settlements from the Upernavik district. To go to these settlements, it's so tricky now that people, they cannot go. They can't even I mean, with dog sledge, with the ski or whatever you want, you cannot go because it's too unstable and the ice is too thin. So things change in their mind. And just to tell you a very small story, but I found it very touching, I was discussing with a polar bear hunter from Kuchlersoak and asking them that they want to... sorry, I will die. They want to do expedition for foreigners, and so we are trying to build together an expedition. And they want to do expedition with dog sledge, and we discuss about what they want to show, where they want to go, and so on. And we got lots of discussion with this guy. And suddenly there is one of my friend, Uli Eliassen. He said to me, "But Nicolas, you travel around the world. Have you seen spirits?" I said, I don't believe on spirits, but no, I haven't seen spirits. But maybe they exist, but I haven't seen. And he said to me, "Nicolas, I want to bring people to see the spirits. I know where there is lots of spirits." And you know, they call that krivit tok. That's kind of hairy guy, a small hairy guy living in the mountains and so on. And I was very surprised and super excited. Okay, that's very excited. Where can we find that? And we take the map, and they show me the map, and they say, okay, it's here. We have to go there. And I say, okay, it's quite far away, but I don't see the point. I mean, it's middle of the ice cap. I mean, not in the middle of the ice cap, but middle of a very huge glacier. I mean, it will be quite boring to go there, and with dog sledge, it's tricky with the crevasses and so on. So I say, maybe it's not a good idea. And they say to me, all the hunters, they say to me, oh, no, Nico, no. It's not anymore glacier. There is no glacier here. There is a valley, there is islands, there is new islands, there is new... But it's not on the map. I mean, the glacier, there is no glacier here. And I say, what? Wait, there is no glacier? And they say to me that, yeah, come, we go. So we start an expedition with dog sledge. It takes us a long time to reach the point, but we were there. And effectively, if you look at the map have been done 30 years ago. You should be in middle of the glacier. And in fact, you are in middle of islands, valley, and sea, and others. There's nothing, no name. And they call this place the Nuna Nutat. That means the new lands. And they don't know what is this, so they put names, and they are, in fact, that was quite funny because we start to go inside this area, and suddenly they say to me, okay, we stop. And now we don't go anymore further. And I'm with the 5 polar bear hunters. You know, these guys, they are quite, tough people, and they are not afraid about many things, but they don't want to go 1 meter far away. And I discuss with them and say, no way, we don't go there. Our parents don't know this area. They have never seen that. They know nothing about this place, so we don't go further. And they say that the glacier retreats, so that means that the spirit of the glacier is disappearing, and it opens the way of other spirits in the area, and we don't know what are the spirits. And believe me or not, I'm very, I share that with you, but it's very special for me. And so we sleep, we put the sledge on the ice, we put the tent on, we put all the dogs around the sledge, and we spend the night like this. And so we were five sledge, so that means we have something like 100 dogs. So you got all the dogs around you. And of course the dogs, they make lots of noise all the night. And during the night, my friend wake me up and he said, oh, Nicolas, we have to get out. And because there is no noise. It was night, okay? It was in February. No noise. I get out of the tent, so we put, of course, bullet on the guns. We don't know what happens, so we get out of the tents. And you can see with the light of the moon, we are on sea ice with the land that we don't know. And all the dogs were standing, looking at the same point, and in silence. And they were all fixing a point. And I tell the story, I got goosebumps. But they were looking on a point, and my friend comes to me, there is nothing, I see nothing. And he said to me, look, Nicolas, this is the Kribitok. They are here, and they are standing up. And maybe 2 minutes, maybe 30 seconds after, all the dogs start to bark and go away, and that's it, and that was finished. But the spirit was there. And so that's, for them, the things change very, very quickly, and that's, for them also, of course, a source of problem, because you know that they don't know how to swim. So for us, as explorer, of course, when you fall in the water, it's always a problem, but you have techniques to avoid that. But for them, if they fall in the water, it's death. Okay, they don't know how to swim, and the water is quite cold, let's say. So things change a lot, and we have seen that a lot.
And just, I was wondering, do you think they were very angry after that, or what are their feelings about
No,
this big change?
Yeah, they're feeling it's. I was listening to you, what you say about the harmony, and when they saw the spirit, they were all. I mean, for my 5 friends, there is no question. It's a Krevitok, it's a spirit, and they feel that the harmony, because you know what I learned. I mean, the big lesson that a guy from Huli gave to me, the big lesson from Greenland for me is that nature doesn't exist. Okay, there's no nature. I mean, man and nature are the same. There is no words to say nature. Okay, it's the same. So we are connected. And what they say when they see the Krevitok, they say that he's here to build a new harmony without the glacier. So it's not something sad. It's something that things change, and for them we have to adapt ourselves. And they are very, very strong to find a way to adapt themselves because they have nothing. I mean, in Kujloswak, in Nayat, and they have this incredible power to adapt themselves.
They are not angry.
Nicola, can I?
With all the people living in the south, putting so much CO2 in the atmosphere and changing their life?
No, that's yeah, you're right, Christian. They can be angry to us because our consumption of the society, because we are building cars, we have planes and so on. But they are not angry, and they said, okay, we have to find the balance. So we have to adapt, and we have to find a new balance, and that was a very nice message, I think.
Yeah, can I add that that it's very interesting that these very fast changes that the locals in Greenland and other Arctic nations, these very fast changes they're seeing, they're not scientific, they're clearly observational, but it completely correlates with the science that people are doing in these Arctic regions. The glaciology, the oceanography, the climate science, it all correlates with these observations that locals are seeing. In 2009, I traveled all the way around Greenland, everything but the very top northern coast with Greenland with Greenpeace on board Arctic Sunrise. And we spent 6 weeks below the Petermann Glacier. Actually, we were moored with Arctic Sunrise, the big icebreaker ship, on the Petermann Glacier to study it, so that these people could really get an understanding of what was going on with this glacier, one of the biggest glaciers in Greenland. And it's now dormant, it's now dead. And all of this ice of the Petermann Glacier that's coming down and just sitting there and floating on the ocean is now pulling away and, of course, melting into the ocean and contributing to sea level rise. The Petermann Glacier and so many other glaciers in Antarctica, they're a major outlet for the ice up on the plateau, but they're also act as blockages to prevent the ice from moving too fast down into the sea. Once those big glaciers are gone, then it's a free-for-all. All of that ice up on the Antarctic plateau is just going to swim its way down to the coast and contribute catastrophically to sea level rise. What's also happening in Greenland that the scientists are seeing is this incredible melt, faster than ever before, as a consequence of climate change. And all of that water up on the Greenland plateau filters down through the gaps and the crevasses and the moulins, and it goes down to the bedrock and it lubricates all of these glaciers and allows them to slip so much faster and so much easier. And it's speeding up these glaciers, carving more icebergs into the ocean, and again, contributing to sea level rise. So everything that the locals are seeing in Greenland and beyond completely correlates with the science.
Yes, and just I want to add something because I'm very surprised about how we are here. You know, we are talking about glacier, we have built sea ice and so on, and what the problem, what can we do? But we never talk about with the locals. I mean, they are living on sea ice, they are living with the glacier, they are living because of the glacier. And I was very surprised just to share you a small story about the knowledge that they got. Because I was in Couche-Lorsois, we were trying to teach the hunters, you know, the narwhal hunters, that they hunt narwhals with the kayaks, and they harpoon the narwhals, and we want to put beacon on the narwhals with the camera on them. And so I work with a scientist in France, and I come to Greenland, and I was very keen to show them a sound of the narwhal, because the sound is just incredible. I don't know if you have here a narwhal, but it's just like you know, the Addams Family generics. Pop, 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 pop. It's crazy. I mean, you cannot imagine what it is, this sound. So I put the sound and to my friends, and they were looking at me and say, yes, it's the sound of the narwhal. And I say, oh, come on, guys, it's crazy, you know? It's completely crazy. And say, no, it's the sound of the narwhals. But how do you know that? And they say, but Nicolas, you know, when we kayaking, we use our paddle. We put the paddle in the water, and here, close to the bones, and we can hear the narwhals communicating, and we can see where they are. And because we are several kayaks in the area, we can triangulate and find where they are, at what distance, and so on. I was just crazy about that. I said, okay, guys. And I came with, you know, there is some beacon on narwhals, and we know, scientists know where they are going. And I put a map, and I say, okay, show me where we can spot the narwhals, where are the biggest spot for the narwhals. And always they point me the exact point where we have this information from the scientist. So they have an amazing knowledge on the ice and I mean, Uli, when I met Uli, he was so young. I don't remember Uli, maybe 7 years old or. But this guy, I met this guy in Naiad, 7 years old. He knows much more than me about sea ice at 7 years old. So I'm a little bit sad that we don't use more the local knowledge to help us and to understand what happens. Sorry, I think we have a question on the room. No, oh, sorry. So we have a testimony on the room, and the microphone is coming.
I'm Brigitte Sabar. I've been 35 years in Arctic, mostly in Greenland. And I just want to add one more that I'm not sure I've heard in many debates. What we see from the coast, there are so many archaeological sites on the coast. And with the erosion, and we can see this site which has been there for Dorset time for hundreds of years, which are getting much closer to the coast, and some are disappearing. So there's also a problem of this heritage, cultural heritage from the past, which is very weak, actually, and also with the permafrost melting also, we see some places which are just changing so quickly. And these places which were the best place for human life at a point is now the worst. And we lose many, so I'm sure that archaeological people, I don't know, I haven't seen any somewhere. So it's interesting also, just to add one, and I saw like what you say, so many other things also.
Yes.
And one thing also, sorry, when we speak about testimony, it's not only something changing for always, but just this, like we have now in France too, like this storm and everything. I'm going to this place called Arctic Riviera. We used to have 2 months sun, always 24 hours for 2.5 months in our scientific expedition, and now we can have 2 months with almost rain always. So it's awful, even if it's 1 year, and then 3 years later it will be one more time, but it occurs more often. So we always think about continuing process, but the disruption like this, I don't know, sorry for my English, can be awful because we work on Arctic ecology with the birds and mammals, so that's what is impacting. So sorry, I'm not explorer, but I just wanted to respond.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you, Brigitte. I have a question for you, because as an explorer, what do you think? In what ways sports and exploration activities in polar area can contribute to climate change research and awareness? How can we contribute? I don't know if you have.
I think Liv is a good example. You're making she is passed away, and she make many conferences and stuff like that. So I think it's interesting to hear how you transmit your experience to the general public.
Well, we make curriculums and sort of we reach young people, and also after as a guide on Svalbard, I think all the people go home as a new understanding with of the nature and what we are doing with the nature. But my main focus is when I do lecturing and also create curriculums for young people is to be aware of what we're actually doing with the nature. So, and we have millions. We are working together with the UN and the international Scout organizations to promote the knowledge and the curriculums. So that's what I'm doing and going to do the rest of my life.
Nice. And Eric, I think you have also big experience in, let's say, pedagogical. Yes, well tried. So do you share this experience to your students, or?
No, look, it's really admirable the work that Liv is doing, with the students and the younger generation. It makes me feel somewhat inadequate because I'm so driven by adventuring and the message of adventuring and how important adventuring is in the lives of everybody on the planet, in particular young people, because it inspires them to learn about themselves. It inspires them to learn about their natural environment. So for me, that feels adequate enough, but it never really is, particularly in this day and age where climate change is so at the forefront of our consciousness. So what I do is I really try to work with scientists as much as I can, and I've been engaged, as I said, with Greenpeace on this expedition around Greenland. I even went with Greenpeace and skied to the North Pole with them back in 2012 or 13, and we skied for 2 or 3 days to the North Pole. And it wasn't so much a climate change thing, but it was a human rights type of thing, because as you might be familiar that the Russians in a submarine, in a submersible, the Mir, I think, they went to the seabed below the North Pole, and they planted a flag here claiming the resources there below the North Pole for Russia. So, we got pretty annoyed with this. So we skied to the North Pole with sleds completely filled up with generators and compressors and all sorts of equipment. And we drilled a big hole in the ice. And we put through that hole a huge glass ball with a big steel base on the underside and millions of digital signatures inside there and a message inside that time capsule. And we sunk it right there on the North Pole down to the seabed with its own titanium flag sitting on the top. And we always had this vision that it would be sitting there right next to that Russian flag on the seabed. And the whole point of that was that after 20 years, this was already 10 years ago that we did this, but in 30, 40, 50 years, the big steel base would completely corrode away, and this glass ball would rise to the top of the ocean and then drift and land on some shore of some island somewhere and be discovered by someone. And there's a message on the outside that says, please take this to an institute of learning. And at that point, they will crack open that time capsule, and inside it will be a simple message: did we act in time? And I really hope that we did, that we do.
Super nice project. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, I can add something. Yeah, I think there is one thing very important that you are like an example. So for me, always I try to go and have the less impact when I go there. So it means that I will not use a plane and trying to go with a sailing yacht in those places. It's very important to be in phases with the change. You know, it change, and I've got my own responsibility of that. So it's very important. And you know, usually climbing a mountain, it's kind of a straight ray from the bottom of the mountain to the top. But now you change, and it means that you are doing not a straight like this, but a cycle. And a cycle which starts from your home, go to the mountains, and come back to your home. And during this trip, you need to be the most simple as you can. No impact, nothing, just walking, just kayaking, just sailing, and not using things like a flight or things like that. And by this way, I think you make a comeback in the past because people many centuries ago, they did like that. And by the way, that's very important for me. The approach, during the approach, you can meet people, you can meet and share experience about the planet. And it means that you had another dimension of the adventure, which is human adventure.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you have a question. Yes, a question.
Thank you. No, it's not a question. I go 3 times in Greenland with François Bernard on that kayak boat, and when we go there, we see that people know very well on the kayak. And very often when we go there, we just come with our own guides, not the local guides. That's something very important, I think, to know and to change very early.
You mean to have more local guides?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, you know, they know so well. And because it's a regulation, and we say they cannot do that, but they are the guys we know.
I cannot be more agree with you than this. We try to, for example, there is all this knowledge that the local communities they got, and they have to share with them, and they want to share. They want to share, but also we have to be humble because we have done so many trouble on Greenland, for example, with the sealskin ban. So we have to repair that, and so there will be more. That will be more easy for them to speak with them. You know, when the first time I come to Greenland, it was 30 years ago, and they say to me, Nicolas, you are French. Okay, yes, Brigitte Bardot. And they were super angry. So we have to repair that before too.
Yeah, and the other side, we can say that Winnie Gray, it's a woman, and you know, it's perhaps, and she said, come and be win-win. I think it's really important. Never forget that.
Yeah. Yes, of course, yes. Yeah. And you have a polar bear hunter with you here. Yeah, of course. Please, Uli Olsvig, please take the microphone.
Is this working? Yes. Yeah. In terms of that there's an education for Arctic guides in South Greenland, but it is very based on the younger generation. But you have to also think about that they have in between seasonal jobs, and yeah, it's a bit different way. But I wanted the approach that Nicolas has also been working on, where you are implementing the guiding part with the locals actually who are leaving, because they're going always to live where they are. Like they're not going to take an education academics like in that way, but they have this knowledge where they can share in their local communities. But I think it's really important to implement it and think about it in organizations. But we also think about it in the University of Greenland as well, for example. But I also wanted to say about the graveyards that we have around, like archaeological places. That there's so many places around, like even where I live, because we used to live in settlements, and you were following the hunt before we had houses. Like you had tents and you have stone houses, so you build them based on where the hunt is, like where the animals are. So we have archaeological places that we respect. They have no crosses. There was no Christianity around, like in North Greenland until, the last one was in the beginning of 1900, for example. So we have those very important places as well that I want to mention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uli. Thank you so much. Yeah, another question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've been saying so far. I wanted to ask all of you, how do you feel about the relationship between the growth of tourism, especially adventure tourism, last chance tourism, even in Antarctica with 7 marathons happening every year, and it's connected to adventure tourism and exploration, and especially because I think you also mentioned your relationship with the mountain and being alone there. How does it play a role when you have more than 100,000 people going per season to the continent? Thank you.
Yes, it's a very good question.
Yeah, for me there is a big problem, because I think when you have huge a cruise ship like this, the relationship you have with the mountains or with the glacier, with the surroundings, it's not the right relationship. It means that you are like in a bubble, and you don't have the right feeling about good relationship, because there is kind of a barrier in a cruise ship, between the cruise ship and the surroundings. So I think you can say, well, people, they know the Arctic and after they will defend it. No. For me, definitely no. And so I think the more we are involved in that, I think the more you need a stronger regulation for that. And from now on, there are not so many problems with cruise ship, but I think if there is an accident with a cruise ship in Antarctica, it will be a very strong disaster. So yes, I can say it's a kind of elitist, but I think it's like the problem of the cable car in the Alps. It's the same problem. You mean, okay, you bring many people in a certain way, but I'm afraid, but you need to have a certain spirit if you want to share your own feeling and experience with the mountains. So, it's not like to be an Ayatollah, but I have to say that, I was very surprised. For instance, when I was in South Georgia, we met people, I was with a sailing yacht, and the rusticity, the sobriety we had on the yacht, it was really in a very good relationship, because it was at the same level of the mountains. But people in the cruise ship, it was very good. It was gastronomic, etc. They drank champagne and very good wine. But it was just as if they were in a bubble, not in Antarctica. Maybe you are not agree.
Of course, I agree totally. I've never been on a cruise ship.
I have been on many cruise ships, so I can tell.
You've got the right not to.
No, I'm fully agree, and that's the problem. I'm not, as you say, an Ayatollah, but people have to suffer. They have to suffer.
They have to be kind of endeavor.
Yeah, because they have to be in harmony. The things that I think that, the cruise ship, it's a very big question, and we have to reduce, we have to control, we have to have a coercive force. You have to have fine, you have to have, something very strong to control that. And it's not to say, okay, we will try to respect. No, we don't try to respect. We have to respect. We have to be strongly harmed for that. And the thing is that, but what I'm afraid is that the passenger that you have on board a cruise ship, they are touched. They are very touched, believe me. I spent lots of years on board cruise ship. They are touched, and maybe not all of them, but when you got a cruise ship of 100 people, maybe 10 people, they will be very touched. And they will change their mind. So it's already 10 people that you have changed, but it's not very much. I understand that. But the problem is not the passenger. The problem is the company. The company have to have the spirit. The company have to have the spirit of not only for the money, but why you do cruising in this polar area. I mean, you have a very big responsibility. When I see in my settlements, it's not my settlements, but in Kuchlorswark, I saw the world coming. A very big cruise ship like this. What are they doing there? But in another way, the Greenlandic, they also want to have tourism. So it's always it's a very fine balance to do that. And but the adventure, as we say, we are responsible. I feel that we are very responsible. When you take a picture of a polar bear, when you publish a picture of a polar bear that you take of the polar bear for any reason, you were at 2-3 meters of the polar bear. The picture is incredible. You will publish this picture. You are responsible of what you will do with that. Because the people that will say, okay, I can take this picture. I want to do the same picture. And you have the right, you have done this picture. You have the right to do it. But so we need to be, all of us, very responsible, ethical, let's say. So yeah, I think that we have to think a lot about that.
And you take the micro. Yeah, I have one question, because you say you want that there are more local guides. And my question is, in Himalaya, there are local Sherpas for several years. And I'm not seeing that it brings more respect from the people coming, that think they have or maybe more, but maybe not enough. I don't know, because I've never been there. But when I see how many people go there and have the right to climb, how could we learn from these glaciers and bring the experience we have, so that if we have local guides in Greenland, we do better, maybe?
The things I think, Uli, maybe you can correct me, but I think that the problem is that we came with our Western mentality, and we ask the local guides to do what we expect to see. And that's wrong. We have to ask the local guide to show what they want to show. And sometimes it's very disturbing, but it's what they want to show from their country. And I don't know if you want to add something, Uli?
I think it's important to manage expectations when you are like in the local communities, because as Nicholas has done and been doing with the local guides, like he's following the pace of how the dog sledding is on the sea ice, like respectfully and observing what is happening. Like those are the bases that you have to expect in the like further away communities, and yeah, you have to think about like they are in because I'm from Nuuk. Even in Nuuk, like there were like perhaps 50 cruise ships, and those it's the same in villages. Like they will come, and sometimes it's almost like we are some archaeological preservation. They will take like pictures on the windows. Oh, like those kind of things are disrespectful. Like when you are trying to be on the same level like everyone. Like people are really nice. Like we laugh a lot. Not just to share like all the emotions on daily lives. But I think it is important to follow the pace of locals and how they want to pursue, not having exactly the Western structure. Maybe like you have exactly this and this time frame. And I've been working with a lot of movie projects, for example. So you have this project for 1 month, and then exactly this time in the morning you want to duck sled, and exactly this time you want to sail around these icebergs. But you cannot put like exact time frame that you are going to risk somebody else's life with yours. So those are important. But thank you as well for the question.
Thank you, Uli. Okay, Anne, a question from Anne Choquet.
Thanks. As a researcher in law, so I would like to thank you for speaking about regulations. I think we need regulations for everything, not only tourism, but for any activities in these polar areas. I want to know what do you think about this new generation of explorers, people who want to have likes in YouTube, for example. There are more and more people that say, "Oh, I would like to go to I don't know, Greenland, Antarctica," and there are so many people who want to go and to speak, and they say always, "We will share with scientists. We will have scientific activities." What do you think about this? Can we have always this good relationship between science and exploration?
Very good question, Anne. I'm very impressed. And I think that maybe, Eric, you can tell, because you got this school, exploration school. I mean, maybe you have a point of view on that?
Well, look, the connection between exploration, adventuring, and science is somewhat of a delicate one. And because I work as a consultant for polar expeditions, I work as a guide, and I have a lot of people approach me saying, "I want to do this polar expedition to the South Pole, across Antarctica, across Greenland, whatever." And what they're proposing to do is cutting edge adventuring and exploration, to the point where anything could disrupt their progress and completely mess with their timing. And they say, "But I'm going to involve a charity, and I'm going to involve, some data collection for science." It's like, well, you know what? You don't really need to do that. You're not a scientist. Are you connected with true, bona fide, world-class scientists who can actually use this data? Or is it just proposing something to get that clickbait, to get those video, YouTube clicks, to get people to following them on social media? Adventure and exploration is good enough in its own right. There's not this requirement to muddy the waters with doing pseudoscience. A lot of the cruises that go to Antarctica and other expeditions, they're doing, I can't remember the term for it, but it's kind of this public science. And sometimes I just wonder whether this really has a great deal of benefit. I think we underestimate the power of being at a location and looking at the views just for what they are, and coming back with a sense of bewilderment and just, transmitting that bewilderment to whoever wants to listen. But don't force it down people's throats. Don't force the science just for the sake of creating an expedition that you think should be grander than it really is. The science is incredibly important. I know that. I'm actually trained as a science in geology, but I never really, put that to practice. I've worked with many science, and it's incredibly important, and we can't do without it. There's no question about that. But I think we have to leave it to the real scientists, the true scientists, you know, to do their jobs. If we go out into the field, if we've got room on our sleds, if we've got time in the day to take water samples, to take ice samples, to take atmospheric samples, then sure, let's do that. But they've got to be handed over to the right people so that we can see true science at work.
Thank you, Eric. And Liv, maybe you have something to add also, because in Svalbard there is lots of connection between science and adventure.
Yeah, I think most of the guides on Svalbard these days are students at the Arctic University. So, I have to admit that I have a godmother for expedition ships that is going into Antarctica and the Great Lakes in the US, Viking Octantis. And then they have a lab on board, and they have scientists on board, and they also cooperate with universities in Norway and England. So I think that it's a big change from 30 years ago, the cruise ships. I think the clients or the guests are more interested. And as Nicholas said, they come back, they are very touched and, getting more and more aware of the environment and what they're doing. And also, I think it will be more regulation both in the Arctic and Antarctica about the cruise ships, because when I was a lecturer on a cruise ship in, I think it's around 2000, and we were let out on the Cuvierville Island, and thought that we would have with kayaks, and thought we would have a kind of a holiday, quiet holiday. Then another departure came, and we had a lecture on the way back home. But after 2 hours, there's a new cruise ship coming in. So it was a lot of cruise ships at the same destination, and of course that disturbed the penguins there. So I think I was in Antarctica as a lecturer 2 years ago, and I saw that it's been a difference. So I think IACO is doing a good job with regulation, but we need more regulation. So that's my experience. But I think, as Nicholas said, the people going on this ship and having the people that really are knowledge about what they know about all themes around the Arctic wildlife and glaciers and everything. I think it make a big impact on most of the passengers.
Thank you, Liv. Thank you so much. And I can share also something with you, Anne, is that I was a teacher and I got a PhD in computer science. Yes, I'm very proud about that. And I was a researcher during 12 years. And it's amazing, and maybe Eric, you have this feeling also, but it's amazing the spirit of a researcher and the spirit of an explorer. They are so close. Each expedition that I'm doing, I feel the same joy that I got when I was doing my PhD. So there is a strong connection. Believe me, you will see when you will be on the dock sledge.
It's absolutely true, Nicola. That's so true. I've worked with some really renowned scientists. Jason Box, who's a professor in glaciology, working with let me remind myself, professor of glaciology at the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland. Dr. Alan Hubbard, professor of glaciology at Oulu University in Finland. Dr. Fiamma Straneo, formerly at Woods Hole Institute, now professor of oceans and climate at Scripps Institute of Oceanography. And these guys, these people are explorers at their heart. And they share exactly the same kind of feelings and drive that I have as an explorer and as an adventurer. And it's interesting because when I read books about science and about scientific discovery, I get the same feeling that when I read books about adventure and exploration. They are so well aligned. And Nicola, it's really a perfect anecdote, an analogy this this sharing of this feeling between scientists and explorers.
Thank you. So I'm sorry because I can stay like this with all of you. Maybe you have to. Oh, the last question. Oof, I'm very scared.
Don't be scared. I want to thank. So my name is Emmanuel Sultan. I'm a polar scientist, at least, and I wanted to thank you to use so many times the word spirit. I heard it at different time during this session, and also the spirit of that is also for the artists. And looking at this piece of ice remind me an artist I'm working with, Marielle Gill. She has a very huge creative project, and the name is With or Without Ice. So thank you for that. And thank you to bring back the term of spirit and also this the feeling of something that is bigger than us. And I think it's very, very important. And I'm thinking about Joanna Massey and the work that reconnect. And I think at this time we need maybe some rituals. And the one you share with the big bubble, I think it's something doing with that. So let's think about that. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dode. Maybe I let you the last word about the ice.
Yes. Very important. No, yes, we said that, for instance, adventure and science are very important for humanity, of course. But I just want to add that we don't have. You were speaking about kind of art, and it's very important because the question is always why. Why do you climb mountains? Why do you do science? Why? And mountaineering, it belongs to the, I don't know the word in English, so I will say in France, patrimoine immatériel de l'UNESCO. It's quite hard to translate. Or, our other example, I think it was in 1978, one of the first satellites that goes away, maybe from to reach non-human civilization. They brought some pictures. They put some pictures inside the satellite, and one of the pictures was a mountaineer, very famous, Gaston Rébuffat, which was at the top of the mountain. So it means that all of this science, mountaineering, adventure, exploration, we have all of this in our art. We have all of this in our luggages. And if we lost one of this luggage, we lost ourselves.
Nice. Christian, maybe?
Just say that we are facing incredible change, and I think we need a really strong shaman if we want to really, not inverse, but to try to minimize what's happening so fast.
Very good. Yeah, just a word to finish with Uli about the Angakok.
Shortly, I can say, I think some people may know the mother of the sea. I don't think this is working. Sorry. Some people may know the mother of the sea in Inuit culture. Like it's the mother of the sea. So that's what we hear when we are like kids. Like we are very afraid of throwing trash, like anything, just to the sea because all the trash will just be stuck on her hair, and she will be so angry, and she will punish all the peoples in the world. Like, and the weather will be so bad and be so windy, and you cannot hunt and you cannot get anything for food. So it's very reflective for what I was coming here, and perhaps what I can tell, like in the context of this spirit I'm thinking about. So, but thank you for the question as well.
Thank you. So for the one who wants to look on the internet, you look for the legend of Sedna or Isuma Arna. That means the mother of the sea, and you will find what is all the story that tell Uli. I want to thank you, all of you, Liv, Eric from Svalbard and from Australia. Thank you so much to have been with us, Dode, Christian, and Uli, and all of you in the room, and for the other ones who are not in the room. Thank you so much, and see you soon on a place with lots of ice.